What is crack-a-lackin', Ridge Runner Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Ridge Runners Live. Tonight we are in for an absolute treat as we are joined by the two-time champion of the Ode to Laz Backyard Ultra in the 2021 assist at this year's race. She also ran 200 miles at Big's Backyard Ultra this past year, coming to us all the way from the state up north that shall not be named. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Sarah Moore, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. Coming from the great state of Michigan, thank you.
I'm out in Utah now, but I really just can't say it myself. John, I know you're holding down the fort in Ohio for us, and we appreciate you doing that. But how are you doing, Sarah?
I'm good. I'm doing good. Thanks for inviting me on.
We're so excited to talk to you about Ode to Laz and kind of all things trail and ultra running. So it's going to be a super exciting episode. For those of you that don't know, my name is Wesley Hart, and holding down the fort with me tonight is a man who is attempting to finish his first 100 miler this upcoming weekend, JD3, John Dolowacki III. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. I'm doing pretty well. Excited and nervous for the weekend, especially since I got some redemption from last year coming out. So I'm happy. I guess we start off with our normal favorite thing. Sarah, what are you drinking over there?
I got myself a homemade margarita, thanks. What about you?
I have high quality H2O, and it is very delicious.
You've got the taper going. I appreciate that, John. That's a good look. I've got the Walrus tonight. This is a Jackson, Wyoming beer from Roadhouse Brewing Company in Jackson, Wyoming. Shout out to Alex Jackson. We had a weekend up in the Grand Tetons together and got some souvenirs that I took back with me. So excited to be drinking that tonight. But let's dive into things. You can find the show on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're on Strava, join our Strava club as well. Before we dive too deep into Ode to Laz, and I know our viewers are super excited to hear all about the race. And if you're watching live, feel free to drop questions in the comments starting now, and we'll be sure to relay those along. But Sarah, I want to know, how did you find running? Take us back to the first time you decided to lace up a pair of shoes.
Good question. Well, I've always kind of been athletic, I guess. I've been a runner just to stay in shape for different sports. I was mainly a basketball player growing up. And so I would use that as my warm up for practice. And then after sports ended, I needed a way to balance all of the drinking I was doing. So I used that as an outlet. And I would run with my sister-in-law at the time. And just casually got into it. I watched other people do half marathons. And then at work, when I got my big girl job, I found a running club at work. And they would go out every day at lunch and they would run these trails around the complex. And they would take me out, and I hated trail running because it was just awful. You could not get in any sort of groove. And I just thought this wasn't for me. Too muddy and hilly and difficult. And I was much better on like that flat open road because, I'm from the flat lands of Michigan. But I don't know, it was just a combination of peer pressure and watching other people do things. I was like, well, if they're doing it, why can't I? And it became a gradual snowball or progression of, the marathon distance, and then what's the next after that, and talking to some people there that were, twice my age or could be my parents, and crushing ultras. And I'm like, well, what's an ultra? I'm like, that's stupid. How crazy. That'll never be me. And so here we are. I guess it was just a gradual slippery slope, shall we say, of meeting the right people and being a sucker for peer pressure.
What are those beginning ultras like? Obviously, you kind of said you kind of stumbled into the scene, but kind of take us back to what your first couple of ultras were like.
They were ugly, very ugly, and very underprepared. I didn't really listen to anybody. I'm kind of one of those hard-headed, I'm going to figure this out for myself types. And they would tell me, oh, you should stretch, you should roll. I'm like, I'm young, I'm fine. I'll be okay. And then I would get runner's knee. And then I would be off cross training for the next few months trying to get back into running. But my first 50 mile, I remember it was North Country, Manistee, Michigan. And I thought, okay, maybe if I just build up my mileage, I'll be okay. And all of my miles were flat roads, basically. And then I get on this hilly trail, and the last 15 miles plus, I think I spent crying. But then again, I still cry a lot. So it's kind of my MO. I think I learned there though that you need to do a little more hill work and a little more trail running to be good at trail running, or at least not suffer the entire time. So a lot of trial and error. But then, it took a while to want to do another 50 miler after that. And I think it was after a few drinks that we decided to sign up for a 100 miler, just because it sounded like a good idea at the time. One of those like RUIs where you register under the influence. I'm sure there's some people out there that have fallen victim to that. But then the next day you wake up and like, okay, we're going to do this. And it was like a similar experience. So my first 100 was also a death march to the end. And I was never going to do another one after that either. It was like a one and done. But for some reason, after you sit down and reminisce and think about it, and the pain subsides, and you have all these like awesome memories of how horrible it was, you get excited to do it again, which I don't know why that makes sense, but I don't know. So that's kind of how it all started. And then it's been more recently, like the backyards have become addicting, and just kind of a question mark of what's your personal limit. So I've been more into those because it's not really about hitting a certain time, I guess. It's about what can you pull out of yourself, and it's not a certain mileage per se. Because if you go out with like, okay, I'm going to do 50 miles or 5K even, the last percentage of the race, no matter how far it is, always sucks. So you go out for a 10 miler, the last 5 miles are going to be hard. You go out for 100, sorry, John, but you're probably going to suffer those last 15. But if you go for unlimited, you don't know when the end is. So it's kind of a different mind game. And I don't know. It's crazy, but I love it.
You kind of talked about your preparation and kind of going through the process of trial and error throughout your ultra running experience. How has that played into your backyard ultra experience, some of the first backyard ultra, to kind of where you are now?
Oh, good point. We've definitely experimented with a lot of different foods and crew kit. Thanks to my wonderful husband, who's been my chief crew man. He's acquired a lot of things over the years that have made it easier, I guess. Although it's made it harder in the preparation because there's so much stuff to pack and so much stuff to unload. So maybe it's just overcomplicated it in some ways, because if you look at like the champion this year, he shows up with like a tent chair and a cooler of beer and he's good to go. So maybe it's wiser to go back to basics and not get so fancy. I don't know, I guess still figuring it out. You can't really perfect this backyard stuff. There's always something to learn. Just changing up more of like my mental training has been a big thing, because I think sometimes you can go into any race and already count yourself out. And if you go into the backyard not with this attitude of I'm going to go until I drop, then you're kind of, or if you go into it with like I'm going to hit this number and be done, you're not going to be going as far as you possibly could. So I guess training myself to not underestimate myself has been a big thing.
Our first question in the chat from Dom Halbert says, "Hey, how did your porta potty backyard, which is an amazing name for a race, earlier this year prepare you mentally for Ode?"
Well, I got to tell you, that was a lesser known race that I didn't really advertise too much, although it might have been on Strava a couple of times. But I did get into this porta potty thing back during COVID when there wasn't much else to do. Everything was closed. So when I go for runs, and sometimes you need to make a stop, I would inspect these porta potties and, stumble upon some interesting things inside of them. Well, my friend Dom here had a birthday earlier this year, and I decided to dedicate a race to him, a backyard style race. That involved a lot of porta potties because he's really old now. But I'd have to run around the porta potty and then go inside of it, and that would count as one backyard porta potty. And we videotaped every single one of these. It was a big challenge. I didn't make it. I DNF'd. So maybe this prepared me for what happened at Ode. I got to like 18, and I think I ran out of porta potties because the goal was to get a new porta potty every time. And I mean, Royal Oak is only so big. There's only so many construction zones. And honestly, I think everyone thought I was weird around here, or maybe everywhere, but it was tough. It was a challenge. I'm not sure I'm ready for another one of those.
You pretty much did a porta potty scavenger hunt.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Tour.
Love it.
That's awesome. It's always great to hear, these shows are always so inspiring to hear, how the greats mentally prepare themselves for things like this. And the Porta Potty Backyard Ultra is one we've never heard before, but one that I hope our viewers honestly take to heart and let us know how it is, and film it, please, because we'd love to see those as well.
It's on YouTube somewhere, but I'm not sure I'm going to publish that. My editing skills are not very good. It could have been better.
That's awesome. So let's dive into Ode here going into this year. I want to start by setting the scene for people that have never been to Holly, Michigan, and up to at that state park there. Kind of set the scene. When you get there, what's it like around camp the night before? How's everyone doing? Kind of set the scene for us.
Oh, it's a shit show. I love the Ode. You show up and it feels like coming home, for me at least. But Tad puts on such a great event, and it's not just the day or the days of the race. He puts on these shenanigans that lead up to it, where you can come up and do these, just mess around, do some tries if you want to practice swim, bike, run. He invites you to come take advantage of the lake and the park, and so he's got all different things set up. He got me this giant Cerosaurus blow up dinosaur I was supposed to take a ride on, but I didn't get to. Sad about that. But yeah, leading up to the race, there was a bunch of people showing up on Friday, setting up, getting their tents ready around the start line, getting to meet some new faces that were in from out of town. Yeah, we had like Matt B. Davis and his crew and all of the OCR guys. So that was neat this year, having such a bigger crew from abroad showing up was really neat. So we went on a couple of test runs or tours of the loop, and I got to meet some of the racers and runners beforehand, and it kind of establishes this camaraderie and this friendship before we even toe the line. And I don't know, it's just more about getting a big group together from all over and having a run party. And I don't know, it doesn't feel like your typical race where you're like eyeing the competition. Well, for me, it doesn't feel like that. I'm just like, oh, we're gonna hang out together for hours on end, and it's gonna be, sorry, I'll fly. It's gonna be so much fun to get to know each other and see each other's uglies, and maybe some happy memories too. But we're gonna get dirty. It's gonna get real fast, kind of like that. What was it back in the day? Real TV, when they used to live together. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, is that like, yeah, it's like that. It was like almost like in Jersey kind of esque, like Real World. Yeah.
MTV,
was like
Real World or something like that.
Like one of the first like reality TV shows kind of that was on, I think, or something. Yeah.
What it felt like. We were meeting a bunch of random people, and then all of a sudden you're going to become fast friends, and there's going to be some drama that goes down, and it's going to be cool.
Speaking of drama, now you having a nice little bullseye on you. How did you feel running around with this group trying to make friends when they're all looking at you like, shit, she's going to whoop our ass again?
I don't know if I look at it as a bullseye so much. I put the bullseye on myself, and I don't really care about what other people think. I'm harder on myself than anyone else can be. So I was more worried about myself being able to pull out another big backyard. Like, what if in the first mile or the first yard you turn an ankle, or what if I don't make the cutoff for whatever reason, and my day ends early. So I'm more worried about getting through that first day and holding on for dear life, really. But yeah, it's funny because it's weird showing up and everyone knows you already, and I kind of feel bad if I'm like, I should know that person. Or not being able to know them back right away makes me feel bad. But we should have name tags in the future, so it makes it easier. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, bibs are like that, kind of.
Yeah, but they don't put the names on all of them. That would be better.
Yeah.
We need name tag bibs on all backyard racers and crews.
Not a bad idea. I like it. I support it. Going into the starting the race, what was your kind of mindset? I think you just touched on it a little bit, being like, you hope you don't turn an ankle and you want to kind of just go for it. But, when you started and towed the line, kind of what was your thought process?
I just wanted it to last as long as freaking possible. I'm on board with this whole "we're possible so much more," and we've just kind of begun to realize it. Watching the UK backyard go 81 is just incredible and inspired me, and even just the past few backyards that have been going down in other local backyards. The Ohio one going 55, 56. The Capitol backyard going 57. I wanted it to be up there with the rest of them. And I know in the prior years, we had a smaller crowd, but I don't think as many people showed up with that same sort of desire to push it as far as it can go. Maybe they showed up with like, I want to hit my 50K or my 50 miler. And all those are awesome and equally, respectable goals. But I guess now that I know that sky is the limit, I just want to keep pushing it and be part of something great. And it doesn't matter. And it didn't matter if I was going to podium or be one of the last guys standing. I just wanted to help contribute to pushing it farther, because you can't do it alone. You need an assist. You need more than that. When it gets down to the final two, it gets hard. So you need as many people as possible to go as far as possible for it to last, like those other backyards.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting, and kind of going into the early parts, the first 12 hours or so, it's always interesting hearing people like, and it's not even the warm up in the first 12 hours. What was that like for you? Any awkward hiccups, or was everything kind of just cruising along in those early stages?
The first 12 hours were wonderful. I really enjoyed, especially the first 3, because my niece ran her first marathon or half marathon with me, and she was only supposed to do 1 loop. And she's 13 years old, and she just started trail running Mother's Day. So we had just started talking about running, and she told me she was going to do, she was doing 69 minutes on a treadmill. And I said, well, if you can do 69 minutes on a treadmill, you can do 60 minutes on a trail. So why don't you come check out this backyard? And so she came, and we had practiced a couple times in the weeks leading up to it. And I thought she was going to be one and done, but sure as shit, she kept going. And 2 more loops later, she's got practically 13 miles under her belt and 1 go. And I was super proud of her there. So that was a big victory. And that was a lot of fun sharing that with the people that, so we started in the Oak Flats community, and like all of the people around there, the girls around there were awesome, and just getting to share that with them. And when my niece, Olivia, she didn't come back out for the 4th loop and we were starting, and all the girls were like, oh, is she done? It was just kind of sad, because when you start to lose people, you're upset. You don't want your competitors to leave. You want them to stick around. So it's not what you think. Usually you think, oh, well, someone's dropping, it means I'm winning. It's actually kind of bittersweet. So got to do that, and then I got to watch some other people do some of their personal PRs, which was fantastic. So some people say, this was my longest distance ever, and they're like already beyond what they had done ever before. And so those first 12 hours kind of fly by. I don't know, it's a big party too, because you got these 3 different locations, 3 different start places, and you're running around them. And especially from this location that I started at, you get to hit each of them. And one of them you hit twice, because it's the out and back. And there's like a big party going on in each of them. So it's so distracting. And it's almost like, I remember thinking during it, like, oh, this is going to be really hard tomorrow when these don't exist anymore, because then you all combine into one location. And then after 13 and beyond, you're all together in the one location. So there's no more communities going on. And I was like, oh, and sure enough, the next day when those communities had gone away, it was like, oh, I got to run through this and nobody's here. That's sad. But yeah, it's a big party for the first day. And so if anyone's coming out for their first and want to challenge their distance or see what they can do, it's just such a great atmosphere for doing that. And you'll just you'll see the miles slip by and you'll go further than you ever thought.
I think that's what makes the backyard so special. Compared to different events. Obviously, when you're going into it, it's just such a, you just have no idea what the sky is the limit, especially for people that are going into trying to set a new distance PR. Sometimes you just totally shatter your expectations. Going into that first night then, kind of what were the vibes kind of be going around? Kind of walk us through the car thing. If there a car thing, kind of what that transition period looks like. We've read about it. We've heard about it. I also want to hear it from someone that's done it and kind of just that whole thing.
Yeah, the transition's interesting. I've done it twice now because I wanted to see each of the locations and the different start points. And it's a challenge, I guess, or a hiccup or something you kind of have to plan for or mentally prepare for going into it. So going into lap 11, I took it easy knowing that lap 12 I was going to push because I wanted to get like a few extra minutes for the transition. And in the transition, you have enough time to make up your lap on the road because the road is slightly easier, but it's still a 5 or 6 minute drive. So you want to be able, and so you're doing your recovery in the car. As soon as you finish, you get off the course, your crew has packed up all your stuff into the car and you get in it and then they drive you to the other place. And so while I'm in the car, I'm usually changing into my night clothes, into my road shoes. And from this location, it was a shorter drive than the other location that I had done last year, the Overlook. And so I'm like still naked and we're pulling into the parking lot. And I'm like, oh shit, slow down, Andrew. I got to put my shirt on. So I had to rush and get my clothes on, but luckily I'd had enough time to get to the start location, the main location, right as like the bell's going off, like a minute to go, I think. Some other people don't make it there until like a minute after the bell, but you still have time on the road to make up that time. So as long as you're in the car before the hour's up, you can technically start the 13th loop, even if you're driving while people have already started running. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I just know personally for me, if I get in a car, I'm going to be driving far, far away at that point because it'd be really hard for me to come back on the course and know where I'm going. But I heard about that transition, and it's one of the most interesting things in probably any backyard ultra ever, kind of that you hop in a car and transition. But the way that they do it makes it seem super seamless, and all the runners that I've heard enjoy it. So. It
was pretty well organized this year. Last year, I thought it was organized on my end. I think there was some miscommunication with my crew the first year, so we made up for it this year and made sure that we had all of our, instructions and what was going to go down and what bags were going to be where. And we made sure to iron all that out because I did not want to, almost be divorced after the race again. So luckily we made it through without any issue. Actually, it was pretty perfect this year. So I can't complain.
Well, we're glad to hear that. I want to kind of talk about like the end of the first night loop there. There were more people that hit 100 miles at this year's race than ever before at the Ode to Laz Backyard Ultra. Kind of talk about what that was like and kind of how that just boosted everyone's morale.
Yeah, it was crazy because we had 69 people go into the night loop. So the transition ended with 69 people starting 13 or finishing 13. I can't remember. Anyway, that's more than we had starting loop 1 in any year prior. So the fact that we had a starting corral or a starting field starting 13 was a little intimidating, I think, for the returning Ode runners that have gone through the night before or gone into the night mentally, because you're like, oh wow, this is a huge crowd right now. This means a lot of people are going to hang around, and sure enough, we had 12 or something go through to hit 100. And last year we only had 6. So I mean that was pretty cool to watch and to see and to have those kind of numbers. But I think when you're out there running and you're thinking, okay, well, if you come into this with the knowledge from last year's of, oh, well, this backyard only lasted 25, 28 hours. I can win this in maybe 30. And all of a sudden we've got 12 people going into the next day. Like, oh, this is going to last a while. You better be ready to roll and hang on. So I think it shifted or it maybe impacted some people's will to stay because they thought, well, maybe I can't compete with this crowd because there's a lot of people here that want this golden ticket. So
How did the next 12 hours kind of go?
in the morning of the Sunday. Of the
Yeah,
next
so when
day.
once you got to that 100 and you've got your 12 people going and y'all are going back out and it's that like you said deep crowd for 100 double last year, what was kind of the mindset there? Were you starting to look at individuals trying to see maybe who was going to drop or who was going to go really far with you?
I had just kind of set my mind to, I wanted to go at least 2 days. So I didn't really start looking around like that. Honestly, my next 12 hours of trail were not very pretty because I started having some issues. That's when the tears started for me. At first, it was like tears of joy. I had this like kind of emotional, happy moment. And then from there, it kind of dove into this painful sobs for the rest of the day of this is ridiculous. Why is this so hard? And like in between, being okay to like sobbing again, and then I'd be okay to, I had a lot of tears on the second 12 hours of trail. So that's how it went for me. But I don't know if I noticed anybody else. I was too wrapped up in my own shit show. So
Well, at least that means you were hydrated, right?
yeah, I definitely had that going, and I think I was overfed too because there was other things that were coming out of me as well. A lot of it.
So Gabe Rainwater, one of our favorite Regeneration members, said on one of our live shows that, that he wears his emotions on his sleeve, and you guys share some time together at Big's Backyard Ultra this past year. But kind of how do you go New Backyard Ultra, with your emotions? It kind of seems like you're an emotional runner. There's a lot of people in the Backyard Ultra community that say, like, you said, the bluff the whole time, you can't show any pain. How do you balance that, or how do you handle that in a Backyard Ultra?
Well, first of all, I have to say I love Gabe Rainwater, and he helped me through the second night of Biggs, and I will forever credit him with that. And so, yeah, he's high on my book, but I totally envy those people that can hide their emotions. I am not one of them, and I was just even kind of not venting or beating myself up today about it because I'm like, man, I'm never going to be able to hang with those machines that they show no emotion. They're just on autopilot, and even when they're hurting, they have no sign of it, and it feels like it's a weakness of mine because if I'm happy, you're gonna know it. If I'm sad, I'm gonna show it. I can't. I wish I could hide it, but I can't. But then in some ways, the tears feel good. So at one point, my husband's like, "Come on, suck it up, stop crying." I'm like, shut up, I want to cry. It feels good. So I don't know, maybe there's something healing in the tears or give me superpowers in the end. And I think it was funny watching other people watch me because I would be running up, this one out and back section and before you enter the trail, and I'd be like, like one of those like really full on sobs. It was ugly crying for 12 hours. I'm not even downplaying it. Ask any of the guys. It was embarrassing. But you okay? Yeah, I'm good. Always fine. Give me a minute. So I don't know. And somehow I guess I could swallow it and push on. And maybe it was my humiliation of sobbing like a baby that I was like, come on, you big sissy, let's go. So I go through these roller coasters, these swings, and I don't know. That's just how I roll, and I can't be anything else. So I'm just gonna own it.
Yeah, I think the best thing you can do in that moment is just be yourself, and I think that's kind of what you are. Some people just have that mentality where they just hide everything, and sometimes that can come back to bite you too, because you're back at Ultra, you never know how other people are truly feeling, and you can be sobbing for 12 hours, and people can be like, oh well, she's not going to make it one more loop, and you go 12 more hours, and I bet that could mess with some people's mentality as well. But take us through towards the end of the race and kind of how that all played out for you.
I think the turning point for me, I was crying for 12 hours and I was really struggling. I mean, it was raining all day. The trails had turned to mud. We had this total slop show, and the course is hard as it is. So when you're running through mud, it makes it even more difficult. And it's just soul sucking. You're going on these hills and you're just taking a few steps up and then slipping back. And then you're trying to run down, but you're also trying not to fall on your ass. And the stairs just became so dangerous. You could not run them. And so at around the 35th hour, I was like, I'm done. I don't think I'm going to make it anymore. I had 1 minute to the bell. So, I finished the loop with 1 minute to go. And that's pretty dire in the backyard. If you have 1 minute to go, you're pretty much done the next loop. So I go out and I was mad because I didn't even want to go out. But my amazing crew forced me out, and they're like, you're not going to die in the chair. You're going to get back out there. And everyone had watched me just be a complete, train wreck the whole day. So they're just waiting for me to drop. And I had kind of counted myself out too, in a way. I'd forgotten why I wanted it so bad. And it's just a combination of fatigue and just tired being out there so long. And seeing all your friends having fun. Like, I want to go hang out with them. So that 36th loop was kind of the game changer because I was lower than low. I thought I was done. I had only 1 minute to chug a recovery drink. Thanks, Matt, for the vanilla recovery. And to get back out there. And I was like, whatever, I'll just time out on the course. I kind of resigned to that. So I'm going around and I'm walking it basically. And I know at certain points of the trail where I should be. And by 12 and a half minutes-ish, I should be at the top of the stairs. And I'm not even close to the stairs. 12 and a half minutes, 13 minutes, 14 minutes. I get to the bottom of the stairs at like 14 minutes and they're like, it's over. Well, my crew had driven around to the top of the stairs to like give me a little cheer boost, and they're screaming at me down from the top of the stairs. And I'm like, great. I'm going to fail in front of all of them. This is awful. So I was kind of in a dark, dark place at that point, and the sobbing continued, and they're screaming at me, trying to be positive and get me going. And I'm just like, stop, I don't want it anymore. I'm done. So I literally sat down on the trail and threw a little fit, told them all to, F off. I was done. I'm not going to be, very good this year. Just leave me to it and let me suck. I'm fine. Go away. Let me be alone in my hole. I just wanted to be alone. I was so embarrassed. I was like, this is not my day. And they're like, oh no. They didn't expect me to just sit down on the trail. So I had my little temper tantrum. And then I turned around and got back up and realized like all of these people showed up for me to cheer me on, to pull me out of my hole. I'm like, get your ass out and get up these damn stairs. So that was my lowest of my low moments. And this is, we're going on 20 minutes into this loop and I still have 3 miles to go. Yeah, I haven't even gotten like a mile in. And I had, 15, it felt like an army of people there at the top of the stairs. And I'm like, I'm not going to make it. I'm just going to time out. I'm like, let me just quit. Like, no, you're not quitting in the middle of this loop. I'm like, fine, I'll just walk it. So then I had to do the out and back. And I went on the out and back. And while I was alone out there for a few seconds, I just started kicking myself like, you idiot. All these people are here for you. Suck it up. There's worse things. You're choosing to be out here. Dig deep. Let's go. And all of a sudden I realized this out and back section that had been caked with mud and just so hard to run, it started to dry up a little. And I was like, hey, I can kind of run this. And I channeled this like anger, this like full on rage I had for myself for being such a shitty person. And I just decided I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to push this loop. And if I just collapse at the finish line, that's okay, because it can be my last lap. So then I just dug deep and just started sprinting. And I don't know where I got these legs from. I swear I've never run this course that fast, especially with 146 miles on my legs already. And I came out of the woods because I had to do the out and back, and they were still waiting for me at the top of the stairs. And I'm just like, sorry, guys. I love you. I don't deserve you. I just took off. And they were all like going crazy, going nuts. And I was like, and they just fed me. So when I finished the loop, I cruised past the other guys. And I'm like, sorry, guys, I don't mean to do this, but it's more for me. It wasn't some people were like, did you send a message to the boys? It wasn't about sending a message at all. It was more about like coming out of my own darkness, my own hole of like, I've been dying all day. I needed to prove to myself that I could still run, that I could still do this. And so I finished that loop ahead of everybody. Somehow, I don't even know how I ran that fast, because usually I'm pretty well paced, but that was a really cool turning point. So finishing that with like 9 minutes to go, and everyone came crashing in to help me. Like, this was right before the transition back to the road. And now I have like this new energy, this new adrenaline, this new, I don't know, reason why to keep going. And they all, huddle around me like an Indy NASCAR, race pit area. I had like two different people on two different legs, pulling my socks off and putting on new shoes and powdering me up and getting me ready and fueled and ready to get back out on the road. And so then from there, I was like, okay, the night is my time. I can come back to life. And then from there on, I felt really strong. I don't know how I came back from death, but that was like the turning point. And then a couple hours later, my number 3, David Compton, dropped, and he was so strong. Like, watching him throughout the whole day, like the contrast of how weak I was all day to how strong he was. Everyone thought he was going to be the winner, and he was solid. So it's just so crazy how the wheels can fall off, how quickly the tables can turn. And so the night was kind of lonely, though. It's like another swing from like this high of all these people around you to now you're kind of out there battling the road alone. So then it becomes a new slog. I don't know. It's hard to describe all those moments out there when you're just kind of stuck in your own head.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was, incredible to kind of hear that whole thing. The one part that kind of stuck out to me most was your crew. And you kind of talked about how the importance of having them kind of just like speak about, like you mentioned, like, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean it kind of thing. But like, what was it like to have that amount of support there for you at this race?
Oh, yeah, I don't know how people do it without the crew or without people rooting for them, cheering them on. I don't know if I would do it. And I think that's like another one of my biggest weaknesses. I show my flaws, and then I don't know if I'm strong enough on my own 2 feet. I wouldn't go as far. And having this, like, so many people there that were rooting for me, and then we're going up to the line, and I just felt bad because everyone's like screaming my name. I'm like, what about these guys? Poor guys showing up there, out of towners. I feel so bad. But I felt the love for sure. But it's just, it's overwhelming, actually. And it makes me play up. So it's a great thing to have, but it's also maybe my kryptonite, because when I don't have it, when it gets dark and at night and people are going to bed and it's not the crazy party that it was all day, it gets real hard. And then I got to face my own demons and figure out if I can do it myself. And I guess that's why I keep going back for more, because I know I need to get better at that.
Well, you've definitely kind of figured out the Backyard Ultra scene, to say the least, I would say. Take us through that last loop for you and kind of how the end of the race kind of ended.
So the last couple of hours, I was really tired. Obviously, it's getting late. It's been a long days, and I let some things slip because I was more focused on getting into so at the end of each loop, I had a routine, or I'd get in, I'd rest for a few minutes, and then I would eat. But I was so exhausted, I just wanted to rest, and I wasn't interested in eating. And so the last few hours before my last, I wasn't getting enough calories in, and I know I wasn't, because I'd get back out there, and you can feel yourself either slipping negative, slipping physically. You can feel your body kind of slowing, and a lot of it, most of it, is all nutrition. So if I had been eating enough and forcing food in, because at this point you're just so sick of eating, you don't want to put in anything else in your mouth. But it was definitely my mistake, because I wasn't staying on it. Like, that's one thing where you have to be robotic. You have to be, think of it as fuel. You just can't think of it, oh, do I want this or do I want this? And sometimes I would get too many options. Like, that doesn't sound good. I don't want that. Sometimes you just shovel it in and just ignore what it tastes like, swallow it, and get on the road. So that was my downfall, because I remember that last loop. I'm like, I just can't move. My whole body had started to seize up, and I wanted to run. I was still kind of there, like wanting it, but then physically my body wasn't obeying me. So I shouldn't have let it slip. And it was too late at that point to bring it back. I didn't have anything to get me, that supercharge that I needed, that, crowd of people to help me find some sort of source of motivation that, magically came out of nowhere. And out there alone, so Piotr was super strong and he was running up the hills, and it was miles ahead. So I just didn't even have a bunny to chase. Like, I'm just completely in darkness. So it gets really lonely out there and really hard to want to push on. So that's how the last hour played out. And then I hit the turnaround at like 34 minutes, and I couldn't get myself to move. And so then I'm like, well, we're just gonna walk this in. And then towards the last like quarter mile, a car came out, and some people were coming to check on me to make sure I was okay. And I was walking it in through the park, and then Piotr came and walked up to meet me, and that was the sweetest thing. Like, what a champion and a gentleman to come back and check on me and make sure I was all right, and walk towards, like, he could have just hung out and cracked his celebratory beer and started his championship speech. I don't know, but no, he was a great competitor to lose to, I guess. And I'm happy he's going to carry on the crown to the bigs. He's going to be a great threat up there or down there.
Down there. I'm supposed to ask about a couple other variables at the race here, and that were dinosaurs and dancing avocado.
Well, we had a new mascot up here. I don't know where this came from, but there was a dancing avocado early in the day, Saturday, and I think again in the afternoon. That was a nice addition, a little distraction. I don't know why he kept screaming guacamole in a high-pitched voice, because usually you would want to advertise against your breed and maybe say go for the salsa, but it was a nice distraction. I think it helped give other people a boost, at least a giggle along the way.
More in the chat says guacamole woohoo. And then
that has been my husband in that suit.
And then we also got Brian Steinberg, runs too much, is the username. Says good job at Desert Solstice last year too, representing Michigan.
Oh, thanks. That's also kind of a lesson learned for nutrition. I kind of seized up there. And so I knew when it happened, it was a similar, I didn't eat. My body is not moving.
What do you normally eat? What is your kind of like, you try to get around 200-300? Are you pretty precise about that? Mostly liquids, kind of what's your...
I don't like the liquids. I tried them, but I'm mostly food. So like a yogurt packet, a little go-go squeeze, and an applesauce, a bar, whatever my crew's cooking up. I love my green curry. Andrew always makes me green curry, and that just tastes so good. I could eat that all day, all night.
Green curry. I feel like that's a dangerous...
He leaves out the spice, but he makes it homemade, and it's all very fresh ingredients, and it's ridiculous. He goes to these, extents to, wine and dine me, even when we're like camping. It's like, I'd be okay with those Progresso Campbell or whatever cans of soup. And he's like, no, everything from scratch. It's ridiculous. I'm telling you, I'm like pampered. It's stupid. I think I've become too high maintenance because he's made me so it's kind of his fault.
That's awesome. You kind of mentioned bigs momentarily there, and how you're right now currently not on the entrance list, but you are kind of up there for an at-large bid. If that was kind of open up, would you return to bigs again this fall if you got the opportunity to?
Oh, I wouldn't say no. Of course I'd go back. Can't say no to that. Plus, I get to hang out with all the cool people. I mean, that would just be awesome. But yeah, no, I never want to run a backyard again, but I would totally. I still need some time. No, I think you can keep getting better at these things the more you do them, and being able to be surrounded by the greats at bigs last year helped me play up too, and I would love to be surrounded by the greatness again, and hopefully surpass whatever I've done in the past. It'd be nice to have another go. Definitely owed. I let myself down in some ways. I didn't die in the chair, so there's that. But maybe there were some mistakes I made that I could be better on next time. So we'll have another chance.
Well, Laz, if you're listening to this, let Sarah in. There's a couple other people that we want to make sure we get in, but Sarah's definitely on the list. So make sure she's down there this September because she's going to absolutely crush it. What was one of your favorite memories from Bigs this past year? Kind of one thing that you left the whole weekend with?
Well, Courtney hugged me. That was cool. And Maggie likes to pretend to hate me, but she really likes me too. So that was also cool. And the foursome with Amelia and Courtney and Maggie was pretty cool with having that girl bond. And I really, going into Ode, I kind of wanted to have that same like girl power going into it. My community, I hoped everyone felt like the girls had each other's back, because that's how I felt at Bigs. All the girls, I mean, everyone had a boy, girl, whatever, but there's something unique about being kind of a minority in the sport and having each other support each other through these things and encouraging each other to go farther, do more, sky's the limit, that kind of thing. And just the support beyond Bigs has been really cool. Just the, reaching out and supporting each other through different, before and after different races, and kind of feeling like, oh, they're my friends. That's cool. So I'd say that was the biggest thing, but I guess hitting 200 still kind of feels unreal. I don't know how it actually happened, but that was cool too.
Yeah, I don't know how it happened either, because it's awesome to see, and I have no idea. I could never hit 200 myself, so seeing you do it was definitely inspiring.
You could.
I
can do it. You can do
it. I don't think that's how that works, but
who am I? I mean, I'm nobody. Anybody could do
it. So we're moving on. You've got a couple of races lined up next, and it's going to be kind of awesome to see you there. You've got a Michigan one, and then you're actually going down to Tennessee. Talk a little bit about those races coming up here for you.
The Michigan one's a bit of a deferral from last year. I did it once before, and it's hard. It's a 50-miler up in Marquette. Beautiful course. I definitely underestimated it last time, but it'll be a good warm-up or training run, I think, for the Fall Classic, I hope. Although I don't know if there's anything that can really compare to what's going to go down for that. I just hope I can, again, hang on and get around it. So I don't have huge goals for either of them. I just want to have some fun and stay healthy, stay uninjured. And maybe if I get lucky enough to go back down again to Tennessee in October, I'll be ready to battle.
So. Mike Rowe wants to know if you're going to be making a trip to OBU at any time in the future.
I wouldn't say never. I mean, I'd do anything for Mike. Mike's a good guy.
I was going to say, he kind of was the assist the 1 year, right? It was the first year that you guys ran it?
Yeah.
Second
year.
Second year.
But he kind of stood me up this year, so I'm a little stung. Maybe I'll say I'm going to go to the Ohio Backyard and then not show up last minute.
He did mention that he had a big commitment there. He goes, but yeah, I know we gave him a little bit of flack for it too. So we were hoping Mike was going to be back.
Him and Tanner, both of those Ohio boys.
Tanner's Kentucky. We don't claim him as ours.
But he did Ohio though, didn't he?
Yes.
He was at Ohio.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, Tanner.
No, actually, we should claim Tanner because we all hope we could get in Ohio for sure. We should push away like that. That's on me, Tanner. That's on me.
Although I hear the Capitol Backyard is tempting. Like, I don't know about Ohio. I'm not sure about that course, but I would be interested in the Capitol Backyard sure too.
That one was kind of like owed in the sense that, the first 2 years it kind of was not like underperformed, but the third year it just kind of, totally outperformed the first 2 years. So it's definitely kind of cool seeing all those Backyard Ultras just totally crush their previous performances.
Yeah, I just think it's everyone realizing what they're capable of, what's the potential out there. like watching someone break the 4 minute mile, and then all of a sudden everyone starts breaking it. Like once you realize you can keep going, you start figuring out, how do I do this? Okay. And a lot of people this year knew the strategy, where they've been watching the YouTubes or listening to podcasts of the people that have done it, and they're starting to learn, okay, I don't need to go fast. And they're learning, okay, 50-minute, 52-minute loops is good. So even the fast guys that I kind of expected to go out, hard and go fast and do fast loops and have more time, they were going slow. I was like, oh, people are getting it. That's cool. I think the more people learn the puzzle, the longer it's going to last.
It'll be very interesting to watch the Backyard Ultra scene over the next couple of years, given what we've seen it do from the beginning. I know everyone watched that first one and they were like, wow, that was so far. And then it was like, now that's getting crushed by like every single Backyard Ultra out there.
Yeah.
So we got another question from Julia. I'm probably going to mess up the last name, Gunnison. It says, you were such a positive force out there for us all, and can confirm us gals all felt that support. What's your best book recommendation?
Oh, right now, I've been really digging my How Bad Do You Want It? Forget his name. Who writes it? It's on the tip of my tongue. How Bad Do You Want It is really good. But I really like some of those similar vein, Endure and the Sports Gene, and it kind of talks about the mental game. And that's kind of where I like to focus on, because it's what I need help with, really. But then Dina Carter has one that's for Castor, Let the Mind Run. And that's another one where she gets in her own head and uses that positive mental talk to, make herself go farther, faster, better. So those things those are the books I love. But I haven't gotten through all of How Bad Do You Want It, clearly, because I didn't want it that bad this year, I guess. Almost. It has some good stuff.
I think I was just reading, what was it? Dean's new book. He just came out with another one recently, and he was kind of like talking about his like mental game of being like almost fearful of being forgotten in this race industry and stuff like that. So it's kind of weird because it's a common trend, I think, in a lot of the running books lately. There's more and more discussion about mental awareness and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think my mental part is just not being good enough, or not feeling good enough for myself, not like always holding myself too high to this level of perfection where, no matter how far you or how fast or whatever place you're in, it's not enough. There's always more. And I guess being okay with that was all I could do that day. It was enough. And that's my shtick, I guess.
So I think it's about time that we dive into our quick questions for this episode. If anyone has any final questions in the chat, we'll drop those in there now and we'll get to those real quick, but we'll hit our regular quick questions now. So we'll go through those. What's one thing that you can't leave an aid station without?
You shouldn't leave without lube, but that's definitely one of them. I can't think of anything else more important.
That's a great answer. Do you have any pre-race rituals?
Not really. I don't really change anything because then I freak out too much. So I just try to act like it's another day.
Any post-race indulgences?
Everything. Oh yeah. No limit.
Whatever's closest.
Yes. At Ode, somebody brought me a White Claw. That was very nice.
Do you remember the flavor?
I can tell you what it wasn't. I think it was a strawberry.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I think it was strawberry.
West
But I
West.
prefer the mangoes, but that's okay. Variety pack number 3 is good.
We're a big White Claw show and seltzer show in general. No, we're not going to just limit to White Claws. Yeah, normally we do the Trulies and kind of the whole thing. So we love hearing that answer as well. What's one of the favorite places you've ever run?
Oh, there's so many. I'm just gonna go with my backyard because it's like my happy place. And it's not like the most exotic, but it's not where you're at, it's who you're with. So favorite places is always wherever my favorite people are. So.
Dom Halbert in the chat says, not a question, but just a comment. Keep on doing what you're doing, both you and Andrew, with his lucky cactus. Keep on inspiring. You've got two newbie ultra enthusiasts over here, thanks to you. And then Andrew Moore says, what is the dinosaur about?
The dinosaur? The Cerosaurus?
Says, what is the dinosaur about?
Dinosaur is discovered Ode 2019. So she was one of my mental distractions early on in the day. And I found her, I think, 6 or 7 hours in. It's like just as you're gradually walking up this hill and you're looking down because you're like, oh, almost done with this loop. And you see this root and it looks like a dinosaur. And I named her and I told everyone at the end of the loop to come find the dinosaur with me. And we went on a dinosaur hunt. And then from then on, everyone would kind of like latch on and I'd be like, come on, tell everyone else there's a dinosaur. We're going to go dinosaur hunting. It was just something to do. So then every year we, go back and look for her. Oh, after that year, I told, Tad to go look for her. And it took him a while to find her. I told him the whereabouts she was on the trail. And now this year she has a sign and she's like dedicated. I get to have the name for life because I found her. So my little mark on the ode. You gotta come find her.
Have to. That's awesome. Who are your inspirations in the running scene?
Well, obviously my girls Courtney and Maggie. But Katie Wright was also one of the big ones. So when I first did Ode, it was my first backyard. I had no clue what I was doing. And that same year, so Ode's in July, August, October was Bigs, was when I started following Bigs. And that's the year Maggie won. And I remember being at work, watching the live feed refresh on my phone like every second, or, the posts, waiting for the next update, not paying attention to work at all. And there was down to 2 girls. And I was like, oh, who are they? It's Katie and Maggie. And I didn't know anything about either one of them, but I liked the name Katie. So I was like, I'm going to cheer for Katie. Everyone else is cheering for Maggie. So I'm posting, go Katie. And they're like, what? You're not cheering for the, American girl? I'm like, whatever. I like her name. So long story short, now they're both badasses. But now I've been chatting with Katie, via Instagram and stuff, and she's really cool. And I hope I get to meet her and run with her one day. So she's been doing some crazy things out, down under wherever she is, in those crazy, awesome trails of hers. So maybe I get to visit one day.
Hopefully you'll be able to. The next thing we got is, if ultra running had walk-up songs like baseball, what would yours be?
Oh, there's so many songs. It depends on my mood, really. I could go all over the place.
You were jamming today on Instagram. If no one follows you yet, go to our Instagram page, check out our story, follow Sarah here, because you did some different beats on story, which is kind of awesome. So we're excited to hear this answer. It's going on our Spotify playlist.
I have a good Spotify playlist, actually. That's got a few gems on there. I like the one Till I Collapse recently. It's the Eminem one. Just the intro. He talks about going until he drops, and that one's gets me going.
That's a great Backyard Ultra song too. So that's an awesome answer. Love that answer.
Or anything, yeah. Or what's her name? Yeah. Unstoppable. She's good.
If you could run with one person in the history of the world, even if they weren't a runner and keep up with you, who would it be and where would it be?
In the history of the world, well, right now there's a couple of runners in the UK that I really want to run with, and they happen to be commenting on this chat. So I have these pen pals, Dom and Christina and Alina, who I met via COVID, I guess, because we're all searching for connection, and they were getting into ultras and backyards over in the UK. They actually did the Suffolk backyard. And so it was really cool. We became friends online, I guess, and we've been chatting and sharing and following each other's races. And so I'd really love to run with them one day, hopefully soon when the world opens back up.
That would be awesome for you to meet them, and shout out to them for listening. I don't even know what time it is. It's got to be something crazy. Like, is it 3 a.m.? I think it's got to be.
I think he set his alarm to wake up, so that's pretty cool.
That is absolutely awesome. John, I think you got something here.
Yeah, the official Ode to Laz Backyard Ultra channel just commented and said we love Sarah. So
Aw.
um I think the last thing we got here is sponsors. Anyone else you want to say thank you to?
iAthlete.club is the original sponsor of the Ode, and they've been supporting me. And I can't say enough good things about them. And thank you for the continued support. And my family, of course, my husband, who's the one that pushes me the farthest and keeps me getting back out there, even though I want to quit. And I have this amazing. I can't name them all. I would be here for all night. Everyone that showed up for me that 36th hour was pretty, they're always going to be in my heart, because that was a big moment. And I don't know, I'm so blessed to be part of this running family. And everyone you meet, it's so cool how you feel connected right off the bat, and you share these weird adventures together where you like lose toenails and sweat a lot, and sometimes defecate and puke and all these gross things, but somehow you keep coming back for more. So I'm hooked.
Andrew says exo skin.
Oh, of course, exo toes. Show me your skin. I just like their hashtag.
So I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. Everyone in the chat, it's been amazing asking all the great questions. Sarah, you've been a wonderful guest. It's a pleasure talking to you this evening. Just remind everyone, if you like what we're doing here, go ahead and give us a like, subscribe on YouTube and Instagram. We greatly appreciate that, and it really helps us out. Also on Instagram right now, if you go back a couple posts, you got to find it. I'm not going to tell you which one. We have a contest for a Cabin Fever 50K. It's the inaugural one in February, right? Right, Wesley?
Yeah, inaugural race in the New River Gorge, America's newest national park in Fayetteville, West Virginia in February. It's going to be an awesome race. Go win yourself a free race entry.
There will be hopefully a bunch of snow on the ground, and it'll be a beautiful place to run. So go enter for that, and we'll be drawing that at the end of the month. I think that's it, and we'll see everybody next week on the next Returners Live, right?
Good luck, John. Hey, go get him this weekend.
Oh, thanks.
Good luck.
We'll see what happens. Hopefully we'll come back with some good stories next week.
Awesome.
All righty, we'll see everyone.
Thanks, guys.